In the silence of an ordinary morning, have you ever caught yourself talking to yourself? That inner voice, sometimes gentle, sometimes critical, that comments on every step of our journey, is more than just company. It's the architect of our reality. In a world where we are bombarded by thousands of words daily, few stop to reflect on the transformative power that resides in each syllable we utter, especially those directed at our own being. Imagine a seed being planted in fertile soil. Every word we say to ourselves is like that seed, carrying within it the potential to create entire forests of possibilities or deserts of limitations. Neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Newberg, in his studies on the impact of words on the human brain, discovered that a single word has the power to alter the expression of genes that regulate physical and emotional stress. When we pronounce or think of positive words, our frontal cortex lights up, releasing neurotransmitters that promote a sense of well-being and mental clarity. Our story with words begins long before we learn to speak. Even in the womb, we already respond to sound vibrations, creating our first connection with the world through sound. Child psychologist Dr. William Sears observed that babies exposed to soft and loving words show lower levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, demonstrating how, from the very beginning, words shape our physical and emotional experience. In ancient cultures, the power of words was considered sacred. The Egyptians believed that the god Thoth had created the world through the spoken word. In the Jewish tradition, the Sefer Yetzirah describes how the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet were used as divine instruments of creation. These are not just mystical stories, but deep insights into the fundamental nature of language as a creative force. The philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein once said that, "The limits of my language are the limits of my world." This statement resonates deeply when we consider how our internal dialogue delimits the boundaries of our possibilities. When we say, "I can't," "I'm not capable," or "this is impossible," we are not just describing a reality. We are actively creating barriers in our mind. Neuroplasticity, a revolutionary concept in modern neuroscience, shows us that the brain is malleable, constantly reshaping itself based on our experiences and thoughts. Dr. Norman Doidge, in his pioneering work on brain plasticity, demonstrated how the repetition of certain thought patterns, expressed through words, literally carves new neural pathways in our brain. Consider Maria, a primary school teacher who always considered herself terrible with numbers. This simple phrase, repeated over the years, created a reality where she avoided any situation involving math. Upon becoming aware of the power of her words, Maria began to change her internal dialogue to, "I am learning to deal with numbers." This simple change opened up space for new possibilities, and within 2 years, she became one of the best basic math teachers in her school. As we advance on this journey of discovery, I invite you to pay attention to the words you use in your internal dialogue. Like a child learning to speak, we can relearn to use words not just as tools of communication, but as instruments of transformation. Each word we choose is a stone on the path of our personal journey, paving the road that leads us to the future we wish to create. Our body is an extraordinarily sensitive receiver, capable of registering and responding to every word we utter or think. Dr. Masaru Emoto, in his controversial but intriguing studies on the influence of words on the molecular structure of water, observed how different words and intentions could alter the formation of water crystals. Considering that our body is composed of approximately 60% water, we can begin to glimpse the profound impact that our words have on our physiology. Psychosomatic medicine has long recognized the intimate connection between mind and body. Dr. Gabor Mate, in his groundbreaking work on trauma and disease, demonstrates how the words we internalize throughout life, be they of criticism, love, rejection, or acceptance, leave tangible marks on our physical health. Each time we tell ourselves, "I am a failure," our body responds with a cascade of biochemical reactions that can affect everything from our posture to our immune system. The autonomic nervous system, responsible for regulating our vital functions, is particularly sensitive to our internal dialogue. When we use words of severe self-criticism, we activate the sympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight response, raising levels of cortisol and adrenaline. In contrast, words of self-compassion and acceptance activate the parasympathetic nervous system, promoting relaxation, healthy digestion, and cellular recovery. Researcher Candace Pert, in her pioneering work on neuropeptides, the molecules of emotion, discovered that every word we think or speak has the potential to alter our brain chemistry. When we say "I love" or "I hate," we are not just expressing a preference, we are literally changing the chemical composition of our body. Observe how your body responds when you tell yourself, "I'm exhausted." Your shoulders tend to droop, your breathing becomes shallower, and a real feeling of tiredness sets in. Now try changing to, "I'm renewing myself." Notice how your posture naturally adjusts, your breathing deepens, and new energy begins to circulate in your body. The ancient masters of yoga deeply understood this connection between word, breath, and body. The concept of mantra, literally instrument of the mind, is based on the understanding that certain combinations of sounds and words have the power to alter our physical and mental state. When we repeat a mantra like "Soham," "I am," we are not just reciting words, we are creating vibrations that resonate in every cell of our body. Epigenetics, the field that studies how environmental factors can influence the expression of our genes, has shown that our thoughts and words can literally turn certain genes on or off. Dr. Bruce Lipton, a pioneer in this field, explains how our beliefs and words can alter the behavior of our cells, influencing everything from our health to our longevity. The body keeps an accurate record of every word we direct at it. Years of negative internal dialogue can manifest as chronic tension, digestive problems, or a weakened immune system. On the other hand, cultivating a positive and loving internal dialogue can strengthen our vitality, improve our posture, and increase our resistance to diseases. In the ancient alchemical tradition, it was believed that it was possible to transform base metals into gold through specific transmutation processes. Similarly, our thoughts, shaped by the words we choose, have the power to transform our ordinary experience into something extraordinary. Neuroscientist Dr. Joe Dispenza has dedicated his career to studying how our thoughts can literally reconfigure our brain and, consequently, our reality. The human mind processes approximately 60,000 thoughts per day, and studies show that about 80% of them are negative. Each of these thoughts is formulated in words, creating a constant internal dialogue that shapes our perception of reality. Psychologist Aaron Beck, father of cognitive behavioral therapy, demonstrated how our automatic thoughts, often expressed in specific words, create emotional and behavioral patterns that define our life experience. When we consciously transform our internal words, we initiate a process of neural reprogramming. It's like rewriting the source code of a computer program. Dr. Caroline Leaf, neuroscientist and author, discovered that it takes about 21 days to begin establishing new neural patterns through the conscious repetition of new thoughts and words. Consider the difference between thinking, "This is an impossible problem," and "This is an interesting challenge." The first formulation activates neural circuits associated with stress and giving up, while the second stimulates areas of the brain linked to creativity and problem-solving. The words we choose not only describe our reality, they actively create it. The Buddhist concept of mindfulness can be applied to our internal dialogue. Just as a meditator observes their breath, we can develop the practice of observing our internal words. Thich Nhat Hanh, Zen Buddhist master, teaches that each word is a seed we plant in our consciousness. Some words nourish our inner peace, while others feed our restlessness. Quantum physics shows us that the observer influences the observed. When we apply this principle to our internal dialogue, we understand that the way we talk about our experiences literally alters the nature of those experiences. Dr. Fred Alan Wolf, quantum physicist, suggests that our words and thoughts create fields of possibility that influence outcomes in our life. To truly understand the power of words, we must first understand the silence from which they emerge. Like a musician who understands that music exists not only in the notes, but also in the spaces between them, our awareness of the power of words deepens when we recognize the importance of the silence that surrounds them. Eckhart Tolle, in his view, work on presence and consciousness, emphasizes the importance of creating spaces of silence in our mind. It is in these moments of quietude that we can observe the real impact of our words and more consciously choose those we want to use. Silence is not just the absence of words, it is the fertile field from which more conscious and powerful words emerge. The practice of meditation teaches us to observe the constant flow of our thoughts and internal words without fully identifying with them. Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn, a pioneer in integrating mindfulness with Western medicine, demonstrated how this practice can help us develop a more conscious relationship with our internal dialogue. In contemplative traditions, silence is considered not just as a state of not speaking, but as a deep dimension of consciousness where words gain their true power. The Christian mystic Meister Eckhart spoke about the need to empty oneself so that we can be filled with words of true wisdom. Our words do not exist in a vacuum. They constantly dance in the space between us and others, creating bridges or barriers, bringing closer or distancing. Linguist George Lakoff demonstrated how the metaphors we use to describe our relationships profoundly shape the way we experience them. Nonviolent communication, developed by Marshall Rosenberg, teaches us that words can be instruments of peace or war in our relationships. When we say, "You always do this," or "You never listen to me," we are creating self-perpetuating patterns of conflict. In contrast, when we express our needs and feelings with clear and compassionate words, we open space for genuine connection. Words can be portals that transport us from one state of consciousness to another. Psychologist William James observed that our experience of reality is deeply influenced by the language we use to describe it. When we change our words, we literally change the world we inhabit. Neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, demonstrates how certain words and phrases can act as anchors for specific emotional states. Richard Bandler and John Grinder, the founders of NLP, discovered that we can consciously create these anchors through the deliberate use of keywords in our internal dialogue. The transformative power of words manifests particularly potently in moments of crisis or transition. When we face challenges, the words we choose to describe our situation can determine not only how we feel about it, but also how we respond to it. The difference between saying "I'm ruined" and "I'm in a process of rebuilding" can be the difference between giving up and persevering. Dr. Carol Dweck, in her research on fixed versus growth mindset, demonstrated how small changes in language can have profound impacts on our capacity for learning and development. The simple addition of the word "yet" in phrases like "I don't know how to do this one yet" can open doors to new possibilities for growth. Shamans from traditional cultures have long understood the power of words as portals between different realities. They use specific chants and invocations to alter states of consciousness and facilitate healing. In modern medicine, the placebo effect demonstrates how words of positive expectation can trigger real physical changes in our body. Dr. Joe Dispenza's work on neuroplasticity and personal change reveals how emotion-laden words can create new neural circuits that literally transform our biological reality. When we combine powerful words with elevated emotional states, we create what he calls an energetic signature that attracts new possibilities to our life. In the practice of therapeutic hypnosis, Milton Erickson discovered that certain words and language patterns can create altered states of consciousness that facilitate therapeutic change. He demonstrated how language can be used not only to communicate, but to profoundly transform a person's subjective experience. The concept of power words exists in many spiritual traditions. In Jewish Kabbalah, it is believed that certain combinations of letters and words have the power to alter the very structure of reality. In Sufism, zikr, sacred words or phrases repeated, are used as tools for spiritual transformation. Just as there is an environmental ecology, there is also an ecology of words in our mind. Each word we choose to use or avoid contributes to the ecosystem of our consciousness. Psychologist James Pennebaker demonstrated in his research how the use of certain words can indicate and influence our state of mental and emotional health. Our mind is like a garden, and our words are the seeds we plant in it. Some words are like weeds that suffocate positive growth, while others are like flowers that beautify our mental landscape. The practice of mental gardening through the conscious use of language is as important as tending to a physical garden. The concept of mental pollution is particularly relevant in our digital age, where we are constantly bombarded by words and messages. Dr. Nicholas Carr, in his work on how the internet is changing our brains, points to the importance of creating a healthy mental environment through the conscious use of language. The ecology of words also extends to the field of social relationships. The words we use create energy fields that affect not only ourselves, but also the people around us. Dr. David Hawkins' work on levels of consciousness shows how different words and expressions carry different vibrational frequencies that can elevate or lower the collective energy field. At a deeper level, the ecology of words is related to the sustainability of our consciousness. Just as we need to preserve natural resources for future generations, we need to cultivate a sustainable use of language that promotes continuous growth and evolution. The Buddhist concept of right speech provides valuable guidelines for a healthy ecology of words. It's not just about avoiding lies or harmful words, but actively cultivating language that promotes harmony, understanding, and growth. At the end of this journey, we come to the understanding that each word we utter is a seed planted not only in our own consciousness, but also in the collective consciousness of humanity. The words we choose today create waves that propagate through time, influencing not only our present, but also our future and the future of those around us. Dr. Rupert Sheldrake, with his theory of morphogenetic fields, suggests that our words and thoughts contribute to a shared field of consciousness that influences the future development of humanity. Each time we choose words of love instead of hate, of hope instead of despair, we are contributing to the evolution of this collective field. The discoveries of quantum physics about the interconnected nature of reality show us that our words have an impact far beyond our immediate understanding. Just as the flap of a butterfly's wings can influence the weather on the other side of the world, the words we choose can have repercussions that extend far beyond our immediate circle of influence. Lynn McTaggart's pioneering work on the field of intention demonstrates how our words, charged with conscious intention, can create measurable changes in the physical world. Each word we utter is like a stone thrown into a lake, creating waves that expand infinitely. As we conclude this exploration of the transformative power of words, we are invited to take responsibility for our verbal legacy. What words do we want to leave as a heritage for future generations? How can we use our voice, both internal and external, to create a more conscious and compassionate world? The journey of transformation through words does not end here. In fact, it is just beginning. Each new day offers us the opportunity to choose our words with more awareness, to use our voice with more wisdom, to create more beautiful realities through the sacred power of language. How will you choose to use your words from now on? What reality do you decide to create through your internal dialogue? The power is literally at the tip of your tongue, in the words you choose to think and utter. May each word be a conscious expression of your true nature, a positive contribution to the field of collective consciousness, a step towards the realization of your highest potential. And so with these final words, I invite you to continue your own journey of discovery and transformation through the sacred power of language. May your words always be seeds of light, love, and expanded consciousness.